from poor connection. Okay, so Ilda, I can start? I can begin?
Yes, you can.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
please.
Hello, everybody. I am Alex Venuto. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Urban Economy Forum and also one of the organizers of this event here today. Much appreciation for all the mayors joining us at this global mayoral roundtable to discuss town as frontrunners for achieving the SDGs. I do see that we have the majority of our speakers here with a couple missing, and hopefully they will join us shortly. One of the things that we always talk about and the importance of this global summit here is because it's focused on towns. A lot of the times our larger metropolitan areas and cities, gain a lot of the media attention. They gain a lot of our political attention as well. But what we found, especially with some of the reports that have recently come out, the World Cities Report 2022 by UN Habitat, one of our partners, they emphasize the importance of towns for realizing the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly in the Global South and of course the Global North as well. One of the other areas that we often talk about at the Urban Economy Forum and the summit as well is that it's great to have these dialogues, but also about practical approaches and how we can really bridge the gap between theory and implementation. And I think who is better to tell us about some of these examples that exist and how we can support town-to-town learning than mayors themselves and city leaders, town leaders as well. So with that, I will get right into it. Of course, I cannot do justice on the experience that our speakers have done. I encourage everybody to check out their bios. They all are available online. They all have quite extensive experience and profile. So with that, I'll introduce the first mayor, Jeff Lehman, Mayor of City of Barrie. Please, Jeff, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much, Alex. And just confirming about 7 minutes time.
Yes, please go ahead, Mayor.
Okay, perfect. So with 17 SDGs in 7 minutes, I'm not going to cover all of them. What I'm going to do is take a little bit of a different tack on this, and it's nice to see you, Danny, and my colleague mayors, all of whom I'm sure have day-to-day responsibilities, keeping the lights on and delivering the infrastructure which is essential for daily life. And at the core of what we do as communities is to provide the essentials of life. But of course, what we're here to talk about today is how we can go much further than that in developing sustainable communities and achieving the goals of SDGs. I've thought a lot about this over my 12 years as mayor, and one of the challenges that Danny at least will be very familiar with is, as junior partners in our federation, we are often as municipalities strapped for cash to expand what we do beyond our core activities. And there can often be a political and fiscal push and pull between retreating to the core business of what we do and seeking to do more. That to me has always that's never sat well. I never really appreciated being told to stay in my lane. I think mayors in particular, by virtue of our position, we can see over silos a little bit. And when we call on partners in our communities to help us advance our community, often our calls get answered. So I often describe my job as putting together good people behind great projects and great ideas. And that is one of the ways that we can sort of leverage beyond the constraints of our federalism. So what does that mean for sustainable development goals? I'm going to give you a couple of concrete examples over the next few minutes. There are goals, good health and well-being, no poverty, are two of the 17 SDGs. One of the things that we do as municipalities is recreation programs. And in my city of Barrie, we deliver day camps to about 7,000 children every summer. And that's been, of course, challenged during COVID. But one of the things we set out to do some years ago was to say, how can we allow more access to recreation programs so that families that do not have the income to pay for kids' sports or day camps might be able to participate. This is a rare example of a sort of win-win program where We have a rec center, we run a day camp, and it really doesn't cost us anything more to go from 10 kids in that camp to 15 kids in that camp, or 12. And so we have a program in Barrie called Rec Access, where if your household is below the low income cutoff line, we will give you $500 of credit towards free recreation programs in the city of Barrie. That allows households to participate, but what it is a broader effort towards greater equality in our community, building social capital and allowing kids who wouldn't otherwise get a chance, or households or seniors for that matter, to participate with widespread benefits of physical health, mental health, social connection and inclusion. It's a small example, but it was not difficult to do. And this is where over the past several years, in the effort to build a more sustainable community, we in Barrie have defined our mandate more broadly than just keeping the lights on. In our part of the world, we do things like snow plowing and pothole repair, and we do a lot of that because the winters here are heavy, as many of you know. But what can we do when we reach out beyond our traditional service mandates? And the key to that, to me, is partnerships. I'll give you another example of something that I'm working on today. We have a plan in the city of Barrie to expand our hospital. The hospital expansion is a very, very large project. It will involve increasing the workforce by hundreds and hundreds of people. We have to get them to and from work. And so partnering between Barrie Transit and the hospital to try and assist the hospital with getting more people to work in a sustainable manner becomes something that can assist with a number of other SDGs. It's more than just transportation, though, or transit in the traditional sense, because while our hospital is well served by frequent bus service, we know that the requirements, people's requirements today, can be more flexible than that. And so we have been talking about, can we work on a ride sharing alternative? The town of Innisfil, Jason Rayner's here today, I think maybe in another session, famously, our neighbor to the south, instead of implementing a transit system, partnered with Uber and allowed Uber service for residents at a subsidized rate to supplant or as an alternative to a traditional bus-based transit system, because they're a lower density municipality and the travel patterns lent themselves more to a ride-sharing alternative. Again, that was an external partnership. And this is really the key takeaway that I wanted to speak about today, which is that municipalities may not have the capacity to do these things always ourselves, but we, especially as senior community leaders and focused on a local solution, are often able to reach out to partners and build something that couldn't otherwise be possible. The other philosophy that we've tried to take in doing this is to move our interventions upstream. We all know that sustainability, when we look at the core idea of the concept, requires us to focus on root causes. And yet our system of government in this country is built on delivering services to respond to problems rather than preventing them. So we have an acute healthcare system. We have a series of emergency services that are built to respond to a 911 call. What we're less good at is delivering mental health services to prevent people ending up in crisis in the first place. What we are less well constructed to do is home visits by healthcare practitioners, which can help people with the chronic conditions that lead them to needing our healthcare system. By doing those sorts of things, and the County of Simcoe, I'll give a big shout out here to the County of Simcoe, which is our upper tier authority here in Collingwood and throughout Central Ontario. They're one of the leaders in community paramedicine. That's having paramedics do things like scheduling home visits with frequent callers to 911 to help them with the reasons they call 911. This is a root cause approach that can help, the sort of old adage of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's the type of program that can really accomplish great things in preventing the need for emergency services and acute healthcare. I haven't talked at all in my closing comment here I haven't talked at all about the business of city building, which is, of course, what we municipalities and city councils do. There is a whole conversation here around the way that we have constructed our communities and the way that physical design, embracing public space, greater range of housing types and so forth, can support the SDGs. And that's a conversation I'm sure that's been underway here and in many, many other places. But I think the point I wanted to leave you with from these examples is that while a municipality or a town alone, particularly a smaller one, may be revenue or resource constrained to pursue sustainable development goals, that does not mean that together with your community partners and using some innovative thinking, we cannot accomplish good things in pursuit of these very worthy objectives. And I'll leave it there, Alex. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Jeff. It seems to be a recurring theme, the importance of partnerships, especially with the private sector here at the Collingwood World Summit as well. I appreciate your approach of proactive thinking. I think that's definitely an innovative approach that our cities and towns need to continuously consider. With that, I will move on to the next speaker, Mayor Ali Khalali, the mayor of Serafand, Lebanon.
Hello.
Hello.
Dear moderator, dear speakers, I am blessed to be among you in this session. The results of which are beneficial to our municipalities. I would like to talk about my experience running my small municipality in a small country whose area does not exceed 10,000 square kilometers. I will try as much as possible to shorten 6 years of municipal work in 6 minutes. Serafand is an ancient historical coastal Phoenician city. It's a small rural city located in south of Lebanon. Inhabitants rely heavily on fishery, where they constitute 60% of its population, and around 20% depend on agriculture fields. Around 30% depends on free professions and 10% on governmental jobs, and also 10% on private institutions, and 10% are immigrant because of unemployment and war. In 2016, I became the president of Serafand, mayor of Serafand municipality, keeping in mind specific purpose in SDG. So I launched with the most dominant class, which is the fishery and agriculture fields, to provide them with the needed equipment in addition to a big open market for selling their fish by the support of international NGO. Fishermen own around 500 boats as a property now. To put the light on this sector, a group of volunteers carried on the responsibility under the name of Cooperative and Development Committee, including students from different universities and schools from the locals, who communicated with Guinness to show how much this sector is productive, where they worked on achieving a high record with making the largest fish dish. Then the selling percentage was highly doubled, where before this sector was merely depending on gifts and non-profit ads from the municipality, so they became financially stable, and by doing this we were able to achieve one of SDG goals, which is controlling poverty and hunger they were suffering from. At the same time, we helped in establishing a cooperative organization to help supporting fishermen in health and education. Concerning the agriculture sector, we help on establishing a market by the help of UNDP for selling vegetables and fruits, where it contains two buildings, one for wholesale and the other for retail, to lessen the transportation obstacles from one side and providing a discharger for the products. Also, we established a general governmental hospital by a loan from the Islamic Bank to reduce suffering from health issues, and also a lot of schools and technical institutions were built funded by the government. Also, investors helped in building a university which contains different measures. A committee was held also by the municipality to raise and support women's abilities in order to strengthen women's role socially and financially through small projects. Concerning youth and sportive clubs and the playgrounds were built indoors and outdoors to limit their electrical addiction and immoral practices, and to engage them in getting outside the school realm for a while. Concerning the environmental matters, an international contest was held underwater to put the light on protecting the marinal fortune, for that 96 photos were taken underwater and won international awards. Also, recycling and environmental issue were a big concern, but the basic and controllable one was open dumps. Also, concepts like culture awareness, equality, and supporting people's psychological state was a priority, and dealing with corona epidemic where massive efforts were done to lessen its effects and help people overcome. This was also a priority, knowing that we are in a central administrative management where all the activities and constructions are restricted by one central authority, is lacking our capacities to help people overcome the problems they face every day. Thank you for listening, and sorry for running late.
No, thank you so much, Mayor Ali. As we can see from your speech there, the number of activities that you have related to SDGs and the growing importance that towns have when it comes to delivering the growing number of services and responsibilities to achieve the SDGs. So thank you for sharing your remarks. I will now move to the next, our next mayor here, Mayor Sohari Chow from the city of Lowell in the USA.
Good morning, mayors. Good morning, Alex. Thank you for everyone participating this morning. And I see we have a lot of participants in the audience as well. It is my honor to join all the mayors around the world. And I'm glad Mayor Lehman and Mayor Kalafek went before me, set up the stage of the conversations of the UN SDG, the goals. I'm Sakari Chow, and I've been a mayor for about 10 months now. I've been newly elected mayor to the city. Lowell is about 30 miles north of Boston, which is the capital of Massachusetts. We are the fifth largest city municipal, the fifth largest municipal in the state. We used to be the fourth, but there is another city named Cambridge, which is next to Boston. They have had a tremendous growth in high-tech companies that went to start the companies there and attract a lot of residents. So we've been bumped up from number 4 to number 5 in the state. Lowell is considered what in the United States is called a gateway city. Gateway City has a very unique and special designation and description. Mainly, we have old infrastructure. It's a lot of challenges, and we also have diversity population. Lowell is known as the melting pot. It's an immigrant city, has always been built by immigrants that first came to the United States, with the Irish, the Italian, the Polish, the Greeks, the Africans, and recently the Southeast Asians. So I'm originally from Cambodia. I am an immigrant. I came to the United States when I was 9 years old. And with that in mind, just consider that the makeup of the population, we are about 115 to 125,000 residents. And the budget is about $500 million. And that is not nearly enough to do what we need to do in terms of the old infrastructure, the challenges of education, and what we focus on, as the two mayors spoke before me, is to really work with different partnerships, the education institutions, the businesses, the developers. But in the past couple of weeks, my colleagues in the council and I want to focus on one key strategy that the city is focusing on, and that is energy efficiency. Because when we talk about the budget that we have to work with, the limited resources, the infrastructure, and the challenges that we have throughout, one of the ways that if we're going to talk about sustainability, we have to talk about how we can manage energy, manage green energy, and have being energy efficiency. Currently, we have an aggressive investment to help save on the utility costs going forward. When you manage energy and the use of energy in the city, it's not only good for the environment, but it's also good for business, because if you look at the budget and the accounting, you literally save millions of dollars on a yearly level. This year, in the fiscal year 2022, we implemented this project that saved over 1 million kilowatt hours. That translates to 175,000. Next year, we're gonna try to save another 400,167 kilowatt hours. That's not a saving of over $87,000. And we're also seeking grant funding to save up another 91,000 what's the balance of this year. So that's going to save us about $14,000. So this is just like example. We can talk about the global ways of trying to save the planet and so forth, but we strongly believe that the individuals and the municipality, whatever we can do, we should do it, because while we're trying to take care of our city, our residents, in order to save energy, to save the climate changes, to have the climate changes, we are in fact helping at the global scale. With that in mind, we also have to look at the development. We talked earlier about partnering with different development. We have great resources for public housing in the city, but as public housing goes, you develop an area and land of the city that may not have green space, might not be accessible. And many of the public housing areas, we are just experiencing that's what we call like a heat island. So that areas have, the residents here, they are the elderly seniors. They're not going to be comfortable living, especially in the summer or in a extreme cold weather, because we're New England weather. We have extreme heat and extreme cold. So, and when people live in this public housing, they don't have the financial to pay for HVAC, heating, or air conditioning. So we're growing more trees around the area. As you know, trees keep the area cool in the summers. Also more pleasant. It's good for mental health. It helps maintain to have our residents stay in our city, stay in Lowell. Many of our public buildings, we are encouraging, if they are going to develop, many of the contracts we look at. We have this program called LEAD, Leader and Energy Efficient Development. They have to use more like green energy, solar panels. And when they are developing buildings, whether it's commercial or residential on large scale, they get support of the city, but also from the state and the federal level as well. Nor we try to encourage, as the previous mentioned about public transportation, we're trying to make it more of a walking city, to make it very, very friendly for people to feel safe, to walk at night, to go shopping. We're doing studies on what kind of trees, the different trees that would survive not only in the summer times in the warm weather climate, but also during the winter as well. And also to put lights around trees, so make it light, make it safe, make it inviting, make it fun for families to walk from place to places instead of jumping to cars and then just driving only 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Now they can have like a leisurely stroll for about 10 to 12 minutes going to the next destinations. We are lucky also in Lowell that we have many public parks. With the parks now, as we're facing throughout the entire United States and global, basically, let's experience more rain. We are promoting to grow what we call a rain garden. The rain garden in this park will help absorb the water, also the drainage, so it doesn't overburden our public sewer system so much. So these are small things when I think about sustainable development. We have to look at the different areas of the city that we can manage, and I think green energy, saving energy, being more efficient is one of the ways that we can develop. And with that, I leave it at that. I look forward to hearing from many mayors how they manage with the limited resources of their towns and city around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. A number of good examples there. And one of the items I did pull out here, just relating back to the importance of partnerships, is almost how you sell these partnerships, especially when you're talking about the energy efficiency and saving money. I think that's very clear. The benefits that has to not just the municipality, but to everybody. But again, number of good examples, and hopefully we can dive deeper into some of these in the discussion portion that will happen at the end of this session. I will now move to Mayor Danny Green, the mayor from City of St. John in Newfoundland, Canada.
Good afternoon. It is afternoon here in St. John's. And thanks for the invitation to join me this morning, Jeff. Good to see you again. And we, and Jeff alluded to the fact of the different orders of government in the country and how that presents a specific challenge to us all. I have a phrase that I often use, is that in Canada, the federal government has the money, the province has the jurisdiction, and the city has the problem. So we have to work hard to be able to get all hands on deck in order to make the changes happen that we need to make happen. And that's not just different levels of government. That's the community groups, the individuals in our community need to be part of the solution as well. So a very significant focus on engagement and engaging the public, having the public understand the challenges that we face, and understanding sometimes we need to do difficult things in order to address those challenges. Our sustainability plan has been very robust over the past number of years in the areas of the environment and the financial stability and sustainability for the city. I would like to focus today, though, on probably what's one of the major challenges that we're all facing worldwide, and certainly in our province and across Canada, and that's housing affordability and housing availability. We're all, and in St. John's, we're facing a housing crisis. We see more homeless people and people living in less than ideal conditions than we've seen in the past number of years. But it's also an area where our sustainability plan that identified housing as one of the important needs for our people's sustainability, that is able to put the groundwork there to help us cope with it right now and help us to address the problem. Again, as we spoke about, addressing housing affordability requires a complete community community output in order to address it. Needs all the levels of government and the communities and organizations and the municipal government. The key role for the municipal government in it is to bring people together. And I think that as we look at most of the issues we face that aren't in our jurisdiction, but we end up being involved with across Canada anyway, we say that it's always the municipality that's bringing people together. We may not have the money to have the table, but we can bring people to the table. And then we can figure out how we can make it work. So we really spend a lot of time in identifying the problems. We hear it because we're the closest to the ground. So we have that very intimate knowledge of what's happening, and we're able to share that and bring people aboard. City of St. John's, in terms of affordable housing, we have about 454 affordable units that are owned and operated by the city. We have an affordable housing working group that's led by city staff, and we have a 10-year affordable housing strategy that contains a number of initiatives that brings us up to 2028. But again, with a lot of strategies and a lot of plans, after we came out of COVID, they all kind of had to be all revisited because the world changed more significantly than anybody could have guessed as we laid out our plans back 10 years ago. A big part of affordable housing is using your regulations and using your zoning and your planning tools to the best of your ability, identifying areas for density, being able to be leaner and quicker when it comes to approving developments to try to get projects moving forward, and as well trying to foster innovation as we've done through a Housing Catalyst Fund. To try to make the new builds more energy efficient than they have been in the past. I think one of the challenges that everybody faces is that affordable housing is affordable when it's built, but pretty quickly the market conditions take over, and you see the escalation in the cost. So I think the answer to that is continuously trying to increase the supply of housing in the community. And that is really the only impact that we can have on the market to try to keep the prices affordable. So, we've identified in our own city, we've gone through a complete inventory, finding bits and pieces of land in different places that can be used for infill projects. Whether we had road plans that we may have abandoned or won't be doing anymore for what reason, making the decision not to do them or to do them. And if we're not doing them, take the land we may have amassed for that purpose and making it available to builders for affordable housing projects. Remembering that if we were going to put a road there, there was probably a reason to put the road there in the beginning. It's probably going to be near a major route. And if it's connected by public transportation, then you've really solved two of the problems, two of the big problems that people have. People want to have a job, they want to have a place to live, and they want to be able to get back and forth to their job. And if you can identify ways that you can solve 2 to 3 of those for them, then that works out very well. The other thing we did, which is always a problem with affordable housing, is NIMBYism and the not in my backyard sentiment. We actually did a lot of training with the public to try to show them that what sometimes using concrete examples of what we've built before. And all the uproar there was over it. And after now, everybody turns around and says, geez, that wasn't that bad. That's all working out pretty good there now. So you have to take the mystery out of that, as well as giving people as much information as we can in the beginning to make their decisions. And finally, another key point to this is approving home-based businesses. There's a lot of people that are working from home, working from remote locations now, and being more open to home-based businesses for people that can offset part of their mortgage for that, much like basement apartments. Right now, vast majority of our city allows basement apartments. It's a way for people to pay off their mortgage quicker and be able to afford housing, and for them to be more sustainable. So all the issues that we identify for sustainability, I'd say every one of them requires cooperation, work, and partnerships to get done. You're going to hear partnerships a lot during this session because it's the key. To be blunt, when you got no money and you rely on 75 or 80% of your revenue comes from property taxes, you have to be creative, and that's why municipalities and councils are some of the most creative people around. So thank you very much. I look forward to the discussion following.
Thank you, Mayor Danny. I always appreciate when our Canadian colleagues, bring up this notion of, towns and cities are creatures of the state. Very true about cities having the problem, but definitely lack that authority and oftentimes that resourcing as well to get the job done effectively. A little bit of a connection there to what you were saying about the housing affordability strategy that you have. And ensuring that partners are well informed, the community in this sense, and NIMBYism to really sell kind of the importance of moving forward. And that was connecting back to Mayor Sokari there. So we will move on. I do not see Mayor Mokhtar Al-Sabieh in the chat. I see Ilda unmuted herself.
Yes. Yes. No. We can move forward to the.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ilda. So with that, I do know that we have May Britt Jensen, who is speaking on behalf, I believe, of Mayor Mart Eid Kilovanen, who is the mayor of the town of Styria from Norway. Please go ahead, May.
Thank you very much. It's so nice to sit here in Norway and represent my very, very small municipality, the smallest in inhabitants in Norway, only 200, and feel that there are so much common things all around the world, and I'm really happy that I'm so old that I can remember sometimes before when it was not so easy to talk together about these things. But now we have a common frame in the SDGs, and it gives me hope. I will try to share with you, if I manage, the thing that our dear Marte, our mayor, you would have shown you. Okay? Can I do this? Can I share the screen?
Yes, I will open. 1 second. Should be good now.
No. Yes. Do you see my PowerPoint now?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Do you see it now? I can keep on talking then.
There's a button at the bottom that says share screen.
I have touched that, so it seems okay for me, but if you don't see it, it won't help. So
We do not see it.
you do not see it. Okay.
Can you try again? Let's see if maybe a second time it might do it.
share screen. That's what I tried.
Yes.
Okay.
And have you downloaded the PowerPoint presentation? There it is.
Do you see it
Perfect.
now?
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
thank you.
Second time I managed. I think it's not the right. Okay. There we are. Welcome to the small island of Utsira. It's 25 kilometers, 22 kilometers out of the mainland in the west coast, out in the North Sea. And we think that with only 200 inhabitants, if you can do it in Utsira, you can do it anywhere. So that's our attitude. Here you see our small island like a brain or a walnut or a butterfly, and all the people are living in the middle in the green valley. And the land around in west and east are just heather, and it has been like that and grazed from the Iron Age. So a lot of people, a lot of generations have been living out here. And this is our village. It's so few houses, of course, but this is really our local village that we are going to develop. And we are planning, making a general plan for it, so we can make this into a small, I wouldn't call it city, of course, small town in the sea, in the island. And our biggest problem is that a lot of the houses are inherited with the second, third, fourth generation, and they are not living here anymore. They are used as summer houses, and we really love those part-time inhabitants too, and they are relatives to the full-time inhabitants. But we are really not using our houses very efficiently, because they are used, a lot of houses are empty without some weeks in the summer. Out in the sea, outside Utsira, there is going to be the biggest and first floating windmill area in Norway. It's called Utsira Nord, and now Utsira North, and now it's more known that the island. So we have started to say Utsira Island and together with Utsira North, because the windmill projects are so much in the media and so much all over. We really don't know if we get anything out of it. Maybe it's only going to destroy our sunset. And we are really fighting every day to get something out of this big energy project. But we are positive towards it. But we have a slogan that say Utsira gives energy to people and in energy. But we are really scared that it will come and use our ocean and we will get nothing back. But we're trying to get something into this, some working places and some cooperation and partnership with the companies that are going to make this new energy field out there. We are really a place for people on their traveling people and traveling birds. This is one of the one of three important bird sites in Europe, North Europe, and we have people. You can see them. A lot of people coming here just to watch birds every spring and every autumn. And we also get visitors from Canada, and our locals, they have all kind of international flags, so they put up their flag when they find a new bomb. We call it a bomb when there is a special bird coming. So this is a Canadian one. And we also have a lot of international street art projects that you saw there, and a lot of artists coming from all over the world. So we are quite international, small micro society. This is just for, this is very popular just for tourists to sleep in these small boxes made of rubbish from the sea. So people can live well and really pay a lot to sleep one night here. But it's not enough for permanent living. It's a lot of salt and wind here, so we have to try to be inspired by how they build houses in Iceland and very harsh surroundings. So we will really like to have some contact with other places that have a very rough climate. It's not so much snow with us, but sometimes it's really bad, and with the wind and the waves, and it could be very, very bad. And also the climate change and the ocean that are creeping up over our island, it makes us been worried that we shouldn't build so out into the sea as we have done before. This is from our National Day. Everyone is out walking. And it's a very, very nice society with people really going together and trying to get things on. But if you lose 2 million kroner, if you put your key in a new house, there is no one that can afford building new houses. So this is our big problem. Traditionally, it was a fisher place. It's not anymore. It's for the income comes from sailors, pilots, people working in the oil industry, and so on. Very few fishermen left. This is some parts of the things we have done, very, very small scale. So we think that we can make modern and efficient houses, very flexible houses. But we really have to do it in a new way. Otherwise, we have to do it in the municipality building it, but we cannot afford to do that and to give the subsidies it needs. So we have to have private partnership into it. And this is just an overview. And we think that we will really like to have some inspiration from all over the world, how to make a small and towny, you know, all together, short distance between houses, and smart houses in an energy way that can handle our weather. And we think it have to be very flexible, so we can use it for people in any life situation. If you're old, or if you are a family, or if you are, yeah. And we really work hard on these 3 bottom lines: economy and socially and environmentally sustainability. We have decided a long time ago that we should be a zero emission local society. And we were the first one in the world to have a windmill producing hydrogen as a pilot project in world scale. We were also the first one. I will see you did not, sorry that you didn't meet our mayor now. I hope you will meet her later on. She's a wonderful young woman with 3 kids, and she's doing a marvelous job. It's the 3rd period. She's still young, and she is really, really a good one for our society. She's also been this year she's been in the National Assembly for the Labour Party. So we are very proud about her. Coming star in a national political level also. And I will also say that we were the first European society that had a female mayor in 1926. So we are very proud about that. But we are also a very traditional society with sailors, and the men are not there all the time. They are part-time staying with their families because of the work. So that's the last thing I will say, and thank you.
Thank you so much, May, for joining us on behalf of the town of Syria. It's great to have you, and it was great to hear your experience from what I believe you said. The town is 200 inhabitants. So it's great to see all the initiatives, the sustainability initiatives that are actually quite large, at least from my perspective, and you're quite involved at the national scale with the windmill projects. So we have you joining us with a town of a village, I suppose, as you say, 200 inhabitants, and then we also have some larger cities like the city of Barrie and the city of Lowell, which is I believe 120,000 people plus. So it's great that we have a variety of perspectives here joining us for this conversation. So we are about 5 minutes ahead, so we're making great time. That's always excellent. And we can now move on to the Q&A / discussion portion of the meeting, where I give the opportunity for a little bit a deeper dive into some of the conversations and topics we had today. Just to kind of draw some of these points out that stood out to me, at least. I think it's clear for here that towns, small cities, no matter their scale, are the implementers and doers of the SDGs. I think that's very clear, and it doesn't matter your size, as we've seen here from Youth Syria. The other note that I've made here, which has been common throughout the entire Collingwood World Summit, is that partnerships are critical. And that towns and small cities can bring partners to the table to really do what they need to get done to achieve the SDGs. Perhaps what I'll do is I'll turn it over to any of our speakers, perhaps if they wanted to follow up with some of the other speakers or share any additional comments, or the audience is also welcome to share some remarks. I ask that you use the use hand feature here, and I'll unmute you so you can share your remarks. Are there any comments first from our speakers or from the audience? I see one hand up. Mr. Krishnan, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Alex, for moderating this very, very impressive session, as you really mentioned. With respect to the size of the town, municipality, or city, I think the problems remain the same. At the same time, SDGs act as a guidance for this. I was just wondering, when it comes to the municipality from Marta, I think she's not there now, representative talked about energy. I also understand that what's interesting about that small town is that they have collaboration with private sector or big energy companies like the Norwegian Norsk Hydro and Equinor, where they're also supporting them in producing hydrogen energy. So I'm just wondering, is that a small municipality is able to supply energy to the rest of the, what shall I say, county, if you care, or it is how, what are the plans that they have? That's one thing. Other thing is that, irrespective of what you do, you say it's SDGs. Is there a conscious attempt from the city or municipality actually to say these are SDGs? Are citizens, the city leaders consciously say this SDG is what we're focusing on, or what you do happens to be part of the SDG achievement? You know what I mean? So we often, cities do what they want to do, they become part of SDGs anyway. So I'm just wondering to what extent there's a conscious attempt to fulfill SDG when it comes to energy self-sufficiency, when it comes to sort of a natural preservation for this, like the bird sanctuaries and kind of things. So sustainable tourism. So it'll be interesting to see if they have a specific policy on SDGs or how it's being done. So because with 250 people, the main income sources, very often we hear that small towns and cities have problems raising resources. In Norway, I understand most of the money comes from the central government because your tax base is very small, yeah? So do you think energy production, sustainable energy production, as one of the ways of generating income for the city? That's something interesting to see. And while I'm taking the floor, I'm also would like to request or ask Mayor Chow that to what extent, the SDG, for example, I understand that your city is looking into purifying water. There's water quality, please, one of the problems that your city is possibly, looking at. So is that also a part of SDG, clean water supply for everybody? Is it given free to people, or is it being charged? Or is the technology being, given to other countries, other cities? Is it city-to-city cooperation when it comes to sort of water supply, sanitation, waste management, etc.? So just and the final thing, it's very interesting to see that your city of Lowell indeed appreciates the question of diversity. A person, for example, first-generation immigrant, is able to be my mayor. Does it mean that there is a specific sort of focus or sort of attempt of integrating everybody as part of the decision-making process, irrespective of what kind of background or when the person becomes a part of the city or what? You see, just a small questions. Thanks again.
Thanks, Krishna. And so a number of questions there, and forgive me, Krishna, I did try to keep up with you, frantically writing here. So please feel free to help me as I try to summarize. I believe there was kind of three major things that came out of that. One is your question, I think, was addressed to the entire panel here, and the question was, how focused are our towns and small cities on the SDGs? Do they have specific policies? Do they have specific strategies? And I think what I can do is perhaps turn it over to May first, because I think the second piece of your question there, Krishan, was about resourcing. And I think you specifically referenced the windmills that are happening in Syria as a possible mechanism to fund these SDG strategies. So May, perhaps if you had any initial comments, please feel free.
Thank you. It's a very, very interesting question. So thank you for asking me this. Utsira municipality has been very forwarded in environmental things, despite its size. I'm very proud of them. I have just been there for 1.5 years, and this is one of the reasons I applied for the job as the administrative leader. I was head of environmental in the county before I applied this job to be taking me through to my last part of my career. So I really wanted this job because they are really forwarded in environmental things, and it's so nice to work with them. And now they have not been among the administration. The SDGs have been they have been very aware of that, but they have it started long before 2015. So it was before they started this environmental speciality long time before the SDGs. But now the SDGs also are pushed on us from the regional level and also the national level. And also we will take it very seriously in our local plans. And I'm very eager on it, so it's very good. It's very nice thing to me to be allowed to do. And when it comes to the energy, we have had a lot of windmills on shore that had made a lot of protests in Norway because of the conflicts with the bird and the landscape and so on. So we are really curious now to see how it goes when we are started up building in the ocean. But we are chosen in Utsira to be a low conflict on fisheries. So that's why this is the first floating big project in Norway. And we have 30, I think we have about 20 international consortium visiting us. Every week we have a visit from an international consortium now. So it's not only Equinor, or they are also there. And they are going to compete about the license now within the next year. So it's a very, very interesting time to be in Utsira. And also the SDGs are really put it forward from the companies. Of course, it could be a lot of speaking and no into it, but we think that they will be forced by the Norwegian government to be responsible also on marine resources, on birds, on pollution, and on everything, and also on social side of it. We think that the wave and the wind energy in the ocean is going to be the bridge for Norway to go from the oil industry into the green future. And we really believe strong in it. And Utsira is kind of a catalysator into this now. Really a symbol. Our society is a kind of symbol now. If it goes well here, we can do this a lot of other places along the coast in Norway. So we hope that we will get some income, yes, but we are not sure about that. They have to change the tax system if we're going to have income from the offshore wind projects. But we hope so.
Thanks, May. Perhaps now we can hear from Mayor Sokari, who I think, Krishnan, that was your second or third kind of question, looking
Yes.
at some of these projects that you have, Mayor,
Yes.
and how focused they are on, specific to the SDG indicators and criteria.
Are you asking me now?
Mayor Sokari.
Ciao.
Okay. Thank you for that question, Mr. Krishnan. And I just want to say before I start to May, that was a beautiful presentation of your town. And it's a great idea to do that. Makes me want to go visit your town.
Welcome, all of you.
That's a great question again, Mr. Krishnan, to address. And on the water quality and the access to safe and high quality water in our city. So in Lowell, we have the largest canal system in the United States. I think combined it's about 5.6 miles. We use the miles, I don't know how much it is, 100 kilometers, but we also have a major riverway called the Merrimack River, which run through 2 states, and I believe maybe around 11 or 12 communities connected to Lowell. The Merrimack River provides us the drinking water, all the water to our everyday living, and it's also an old infrastructure. The past few years, because of the climate change and increased populations and pollution, the water has not been as clean as we want to be, but it would require a huge investment. The last time that we looked into about a couple of years ago, it really would take about $700 million to really upgrade the infrastructure to clean the water for the entire community. But it's perfect timing again for this conference. Last week, the U.S. Senator announced a $2.5 million grant. We have 2 major educational institutions, higher educational institution in the city. One is Middlesex Community College. It's a community college, obviously, and one is University of Massachusetts in Lowell. So UMass Lowell, they've been studying to develop a device to test the quality of the river before we even drink it, and we got $2.5 million from federal to do the study to develop this device. It's going to be coming up pretty soon. So that's really going to change the quality and the health of the drinking water going forward. Everybody, we worry about the quality of water. We are more concerned when we get a report that, you can't swim during 1 or 2 days in the summer. Sometimes might be 1 or 2 weeks because of increased bacterial level, or sometimes there might be drowning in the water. So we are concerned with that. But for the most part, when it's clear to go again, we all turn on the faucet, use it for cooking, for drinking, taking showers again. quality of water affects the population that is most vulnerable, because we use that for drinking as well. This population cannot go out and buy, commercialized clean drinking water from different sources. So it really affects the minority in the city, or all the communities along the Merrimack River. So with that grants, it's gonna change how we look and how we treat water in the city. Just to tackle on a couple other items that Mr. Krishnan mentioned also, that Lowell is an immigrant city, and being the first immigrant mayor in the city in the United States also. We talked earlier about partnerships with different education institutions, with businesses, with developers. It's also really what makes it work for the entire city to work. We all have to work together. As mayor, we have to take care of every single resident, every single neighborhood. As you know, many cities out there, you have one town or one city, but within that city, you have different classification of socioeconomic categories, and some neighborhoods might get more city service than others. And coming from the background that I have been, I truly focus on every single corner of the city, make sure that everybody receives the same type of service, same type of quality service from the city administration. So that's really my focus. And lastly, in terms of where do these ideas and developing this environmental policy comes from in our city. I serve with other 10 city councilors. We are all elected every 2 years, and we have an educated voter population. So, if you want to get reelected, as many of the mayors who are elected here know, we have to do a good job. We have to listen to the residents, listen to constituents, and many of the interest in our city now is really moving towards that we have sustainable development. As the previous mayors mentioned, we are facing housing crisis, housing affordability, homelessness. So we really have to focus on making sure that we continue with development to make sure that the local residents can afford it. It's not being gentrification where you have the younger professionals can afford more expensive housing, increase the rentals, that makes it virtually impossible for many of us to afford, and would be happy for us out. So we're balancing that, and I saw a comment in the chat earlier about the key also is to keep the housing, maintain it where it is. So if you don't have enough housing development, it's going to be pretty tricky to balance the supply of housing, because it's a supply and demand economic matter, right? If you don't develop more, you kind of short supply is going to automatically increase in everything. So we really have to maintain the current cost of the rental. We have market rate rental, as well as working class rental, as well as low income housing affordability rentals. So we have to balance all the three things at the same time as we make sure that our city grow as well. That's probably a mouthful, and I welcome any other comments from other mayors from different towns and cities.
Thank you, Mayor. And perhaps, yes, we can hear from either Mayor Ali, Mayor Danny, or Mayor Jeff if they had anything in addition to add. Go ahead, Mayor Jeff.
There we go. So this Mayor Childs really hit on a key piece, which is that what we might call working class housing, attainable housing, whatever the term you might historically have applied to it, is under threat. In our own community, just to give you a sense of the trajectory, there's been almost no purpose-built rental housing constructed since the 1980s. There's a series of economic factors and policy factors that have led to that. Both, it's a combination of government decisions and economics that didn't work or worked better for the construction of condominiums, the construction of owned development rather than rental, greater risk for landlords in the legal system, which pushed some large landlords out of the business, and a whole series of factors. If we don't fix that problem, we're never going to fix the housing supply problems that we are seeing, I think, and in many countries around the world, but particularly in Canada. And this is so acute in the city of Barrie that at one point, the average apartment, the rent for an average one-bedroom apartment in Barrie was higher than the city of Toronto. And that was pure supply and demand. There was such a shortage and so much demand with growth that a one-bedroom apartment briefly was nearly $2,000 a month Canadian, which, you know, that's 1,600 American a month for a one-bedroom apartment in a city of 150,000. I mean, the economics are unworkable when you compare that to income in almost any sector of the economy. So I won't go into all the factors as to why that is, but I do think that one of the narratives around the housing crisis right now in our country is being driven by a desire to make first-time home buying more affordable. And that is hugely important, but it is actually missing the most severe issue, which is the impact on those with low and moderate incomes who no longer have a hope of buying and really are just looking for a decent apartment in which they can live to start their career and start their family.
Thanks, Mayor Jeff. Is there anything other to add? Mayor Ali, Mayor Danny? Mayor Danny, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. There's just so many factors involved in the housing issue that it's like pushing, throwing spaghetti at a wall. Some of it will stick, some of it will fall off. You know, there's, you know, if you take the impact of Airbnbs in our area, then that all links back to problems with, you know, it's easier to have an Airbnb than it is to rent it out to a longer term tenant because of the issues that come into play with that. You then have the banks who in St. John's right now aren't financing houses being built on spec. They'll only finance it if it has a sale ready to go on it. So, and every time you slow down in one part, the impact down through the system can be felt, because that's person buying into that new one is not selling their house and freeing up down below or back to, as Jeff mentioned, into the so-called working class housing piece. So it's a huge issue. There's no simple solutions to it, but the only thing is that we just need everybody to be on the same page, and we need the financial regulations to match what we're trying to achieve in the market.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any other questions from our audience?
Sorry, Alex. Sorry to sort of jump in here. I just was wondering, you know, to the honorable mayors here, you know, as we know, one of the outcomes of the Collingwood Summit would be to have a city leaders network, global city leaders network. I suppose it's important that that esteemed mayors also be part of this network, and they eventually contribute to our World Urban Pavilion, which is supposed to showcase different good examples of different aspects of implementing SDGs. So maybe we should have, you know, be communicating with all of you later sometime to see how we can link up your work with that of the World Urban Pavilion. Maybe Alex, you could say something about it later. While I'm still on, I'll have the mic. I was just wondering if the mayor of Sarafan can say a bit about the housing issues that others have mentioned. Is that a main reason why his municipality has decided to stop taking refugees from Syria and other places?
Thank you, Christian. I do believe that we lost the Mayor Sarafan. He had another meeting with one of the ministers, and perhaps we can follow up. You can follow up through email. Just on the topic, I do see that May has her hand up, and just on the topic of the pavilion, because you did mention it, Krishnan, the pavilion is an initiative of the Urban Economy Forum, along with our collaborative partners, UN Habitat, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, and the Daniels Corporation. And it is focused as a global knowledge exchange hub for sustainable urbanization and best practices. So we are looking for what towns and small cities, the work that you're doing here today, to understand not just what you're doing, but how you're doing it. So other cities, metropolitans, there's stuff that they can learn from towns and small cities as well, to understand how they can address some of these common challenges that we see in our urban areas. And we'd be delighted to share some more information in that regard. May, I do see your hand is up. Please, the floor is yours.
I will just say that I'm really overwhelmed. I thought it will be so rare and strange with this little Utsira. But when Mayor Danny and Mayor Sokari and the others are talking, it's so well known. And the water quality and everything, and the finances and the banks and so I'm really quite overwhelmed that the problems are so shared. And if you can use small municipality Utsira for anything, you're really welcome to do that, and we will try to use our society as an example. Even this Airbnb, and that you can get in one night you can get the same paid as for a month. So this is really something that are so touchy in our local society. But the good thing is that when there are some crises and there's a lot of warm hearts, so when we said we should take 30 Ukrainians, that's really the highest level of percent in Norway. 30 persons with 200, then we managed to find some more houses, just in that, because that was a kind of a common warm heart reaction. But we have around 15 now, but no, we are still lacking houses, and the rest 15 we're working very hard to get houses for the 50% of what we have promised to settle with Ukrainians.
Thank you, May, for sharing that. And yes, very inspiring what Utsira is doing, especially when it comes to the SDGs. We have about 8 minutes left here. If perhaps we can have some maybe final remarks, if there's anything that our panelists have left to say, I turn the floor over to you. Otherwise, we can wrap up our session here. Any final comments from May, Mayor Danny, Mayor Chow?
I just had mine, so you take the others first.
Mayor Danny, any final comments?
Just thanks for the invitation. It's been an interesting discussion. And, if you look in Eastern Canada, the recent Hurricane Fiona and the damage that it's done to, I know in my home province of Newfoundland, Labrador, we raised a little over $1.5 million with a benefit concert on Sunday night. And you see people's houses being washed away because it was just total devastation. Those are becoming so much more common, and they're happening much more often, that we have some really significant risks that we need to deal with. And at the same time, when things like that happen, we have to be there. So there's a lot of challenges to being a municipality today. And I wish everybody the best as we deal with them moving forward.
Thank you, Danny. And Mayor Chow, I turn over to you.
Thank you, Alex. I don't have any closing remarks. I think that's because this is really the beginning. It's always great to have conversation about this, even short period of time. We're barely scratching the surface, but it's great to meet all the leaders and the participants from all the world. That's this type of conference and discussions that will help us to maintain and sustain and to achieve the goal of sustainable development. Someone asked earlier that the previous person asked the questions, whether this, again, just to highlight, how do we go, where do these initiatives come from, and our interest to have sustainable development. And I think it should come from everybody, not just from the elected officials, from the business community, should come from every world residents, because what happens in one town, one city, one neighborhood, it affects all of us sooner or later. So I just want to thank the summit here for putting together this conversation, and I hope I will get to see some of you in the future.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Mayor. And as my colleague, Anthony Krishnan did mention, we do hope to continue this conversation with each of you and even more towns and city leaders, town leaders and small city leaders as well, through the Town Leaders Global Network, advocating for towns at the national levels, at the international levels, because their voice is so important to be heard, especially if we are to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And then finally, of course, the World Urban Pavilion and Region Park, which is another valuable tool and space for you, space for our town leaders here, our small city leaders, to share their examples, their best practices, and also learn from other towns from across the globe. So I'd like to thank each of our leaders here today for joining us. Always appreciative of your time and wise remarks and experiences at the Collingwood World Summit, and look forward to speaking again, and I'm sure in the very near future. So with that, I'll close the session. Thank you so much.